Hey guys, so I'm new to posting in videos online, so just go easy on me with this stuff. So, I am a part of the neurodivergent community. I am autistic. I have what's called Asperger's syndrome. Nowadays it's just called autism, but I'm old school even though I'm only 21, well, 22. So I wanted to describe to you guys what it feels like for someone who is neurodivergent to experience what is called a meltdown, where it's just an overload of either emotions or stimuli, whatever caused it. So basically, triggers for meltdowns are divided into two separate categories. You have the emotional overloads and the stimulus overloads, or stimuli, or whatever you want to call it. I personally call them STEM overloads. So we'll begin with emotional meltdowns. An emotional meltdown is where there's something that causes us to feel a very, very, very strong emotional reaction. And that reaction causes what we like to call the cup. Essentially, your mind is a cup and your emotions are water or juice that's gradually being added into that cup throughout the day. So, emotional meltdowns are caused by extremely strong emotions. And so, as a result, the cup just gets dumped, and it's suddenly overflowing. And so our minds shut down, our conscious self shuts down, and we run completely off of instinct. Of course, that happens in both types of meltdowns. In an emotional meltdown, our pain inhibitor is cranked up to the max, while every other inhibitor, strength, mobility, all of those, shuts down. Just turned all the way down. And so we feel nothing. We don't feel when bones break, joints are dislocated, muscles are torn or pulled, any of that. That is why it is dangerous for us and the people around us if we end up in a meltdown. Now, in no way with this video am I trying to allow children to use their autism or neurodivergency as a crutch. I wasn't allowed to. You guys, I understand it's hard. It's hard living a life in this shitty world. But, don't use it as a crutch. Use it as something to define yourself, but not allowed to control your identity. It's a part of you. You're not a part of it. Now, on to the second kind of meltdown, a stem overload. Stem overloads, these are different. Some kind of outward stimuli has set us off to where we are in a panic. And I will tell you guys how to prevent injury to ourselves and others after this. I promise. So, a stem overload, as I like to call them, is essentially where some kind of stimuli, whether it be the slimy texture of certain foods or a certain texture of clothing or fabric, we are now running on full instinct. And that instinct is screaming at us to get the fuck away from whatever is causing this reaction. And it's not about how we're scared of it or anything. No. This material is causing us pain and discomfort. Again, the pain inhibitor. Here. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because I'm only going off of my experiences and what I have been told has happened. So during a stem overload, while running on just complete instinct, we are trying to get away from whatever is causing us pain and or discomfort. We're not trying to run away from you. We are trying to get away from what set us off. Because to us, our instincts are screaming at us. I remember the feelings I had in meltdowns, but I have no memory to associate this with. So, we are trying to get as far away from whatever has set us off as possible. Meaning we will claw and bite and kick and punch and hit and slap whoever is in our way, just so we can get as far away from these guys, from whatever it was that set us off. We're not doing it out of bad behavior or disrespect or whatever you guys are coming up with. No. We are doing this because we are not thinking. Our minds have shut down. Instinct has taken over. So, as for what you do when your child or your student or the kid you're babysitting has gone into a meltdown, is you make sure that there is an empty room with just leave it completely empty. No chairs, no tables, no dressers, nothing. Nothing that the child can use to hurt themselves. If you have an empty room, or if you've cleaned a room out to where there's nothing left in there, what you then do is you put that child into that empty room and close the door. Because there is no stopping us, snapping us out of it, nothing like that. This just has to run its course. Let us get it completely out of our system. And then when we have tired ourselves out, completely exhausted ourselves, then come inside and comfort us, because we are at a very vulnerable spot. Like, from what I remember about coming out of a meltdown is feeling vulnerable, feeling exhausted, like a bone-deep exhaustion, and feeling the need for a hug. Now, it's like the saying goes, and do not come after me if you find this offensive, because I know some people with autism, especially Asperger's syndrome, they see this as a derogatory term, but as someone who has Asperger's syndrome, I can kind of get away with this. So, there's a saying in the neurodivergent community: when you've met one Aspie, you've met one Aspie. And that cannot be any more true, because each and every one of us is different. If one dislikes the feeling of wool or cotton, and it sets us off, another kid with Asperger's syndrome, or person, I should say, could absolutely love the texture of those two fabrics. If one of us likes music, another one could hate music. If one of us likes hugs, then a different one despises physical contact. It all depends on what their good stimuli are. Now, I made the mistake of allowing myself to get into smoking cigarettes. Don't let your kids try cigarettes. Not until they've already moved out of the house and it's on them. Because I actually got hooked on cigarettes to cope with my stress and anxiety, as well as depression. Do not let your kids make the same mistakes I did. But at the same time, do not restrict your kids from being their own person. Honestly, there are things that I wish I could turn time back and fix. And one of them is smoking. Also, something about us with autism: we do not have as many strength inhibitors as someone who is not a part of the neurodivergent community. So essentially, we don't have as many restrictions on our full strength. As a result, and this is something that apparently I did in a meltdown, we can pick up, at the age of 6, I believe, I could pick up a bench table, right, just a full bench with the table, and chunk that thing across the classroom. Apparently, on another instance where I was in a STEM meltdown, I apparently picked up the teacher's desk and flipped it on its top, halfway across the classroom. So yes, we are hella strong. And if you pick a fight with us, you're likely to get knocked on your ass. And that is not a threat. That is just me simply stating that if you fuck around with a neurodivergent person, you are likely going to find out. Especially if this spicy brain person decides you are now no longer their concern. Therefore, if you pick a fight with this person, you are